So good morning, Ship to Shore team. Morning, Wilhelmina and Michelle. Thank you so much for joining us. One of our regulars, always in our webinars. So thank you for being here. Today we're wrapping up our book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, the book that we read throughout the month of February. So more than a book club, is let's keep this as a dynamic, right? So that we can bounce back ideas and how we can apply it into our daily lives, and really how on the transition that we did from working on ships to our lives on land. Okay, Barbara might not be joining us today. Maybe she will hop in the middle of the call, but she's in the middle of the Pacific somewhere out there. She's like 6 hours behind, so it's like 3 in the morning for her. It couldn't be like more in the middle of the night, out in the big blue sea. So Wilhelmina and myself will be hosting this one. But if you're not joining us today and then you hear it later during or through our YouTube channel, we're more than happy to be here for you. Okay, so the book, as we recall and as we remember, The Big Leap from Gay Hendricks. It's as we mentioned when we were during the we had a webinar 2 weeks ago when we started mentioning the first chapter and the second chapter up to chapter number 4, I think it was, and it was mainly the navigating the transition from sea to shore, the way that we can apply it into how we live it. But really, it's the intention of the author is we know that Guy Hendricks is a renowned psychologist and a teacher in the field of personal growth, and his intention in the book, I think it is, and please compel me. I mean, that's me if I'm wrong, but I think the intention is to show us exactly how we can free ourselves from the self-imposed limitations that are keeping us from the ultimate success in our lives, in a personal level. But more than a personal level, I think that he tackles 4 main levels, right? One, I think it was health. The other one was money. The other one is creativity and relationships. I think it's the 4 main areas of our lives. And he goes on saying that the first chapter in the book is just saying how this areas is something that the concept of how this areas is something that fulfill our lives on a daily basis, as human beings and as members of a society and a community. So I think more than just going over the book and seeing what it talks about and how we can apply it, let's see if what spin we can give it into how we can apply it as former crew members, and how we can really give it land legs and transition it from the idea of us being former crew members and now being on land, and the struggles that we had in the beginning, the struggles that we're currently having, what we're facing, and what we can continue focusing on so that we can really achieve our fullest potential. Michelle, feel free to interrupt you're our only attendee as of now, Wilhelmina as well, so feel free to stop me. I don't want to be the only one talking the whole time. Might keep it short and sweet, but feel free to interrupt. No need to raise your hand. We're the only ones here for now, but feel free to interrupt me at any time, okay? Brilliant. I think the first chapter, it was the concept of the upper limit problem. The first time that I ever heard about this, I think it was when actually your last name Harris, Kamala Harris won for the vice president of the U.S. and when she said that she had shattered the glass, correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, what's the expression? The glass ceiling? Yeah. Glass ceiling. So I had to Google it. I was like, what's a glass ceiling? And then I think it's very similar to what Hendricks is mentioning, the glass ceiling, kind of like the upper limit, right? It's something that was self-imposed, something like a limit that's there but really not there, something that it's not as tangible, but kind of like an elephant in the room.
Like a barrier.
Is that what it?
It's a barrier because they tell women they can only go so far. And so when you get further than you think you can or other people have, then they say you've broken a glass ceiling. So you've made it.
And to me, when she mentioned it in her speech, and when they won the election, and she mentions it on the speech, to me it was really, well, I had to Google first the expression what it was, and to me it was very eye-opening, thinking what it was, what it meant, and this feeling sometimes, because there's really no ceiling, there's really not there. It's something that is sometimes it's self-imposed, sometimes it's a society, whatever it is, but this one in particular, it's the one he's mentioning in the book is just the understanding the ones that we set for ourselves and how we constantly sabotage our own well-being and our own happiness and our own successful life whenever we're about to hit that limit. And And I think that he mentions it, and he puts it very, very clear in mentioning that we are born with like a thermostat. And it's this thermostat, it's kind of like a limit, like when you're at home and then you set the thermostat to, I don't know, 80 degrees or 75 degrees. And every time it hits that, then it's going to start cooling down the house. Or anytime it hits below, then it's going to start, even if it's a lower one or an upper one, but it kind of like regulates the temperature inside your home. He goes on saying that under the premise that there's one that we have within ourselves, that every time that we're about to hit it, we self-sabotage ourselves from reaching that limit. And going deeper into that, it's really hard to see that thermostat, it's built and it's created within ourselves within the first years of our childhood, which makes it even more complicated, because when you realize this, when you're 40 or you're in your 30s, you're well beyond your first childhood years, and your thermostat is already set. So all we have at this point is really just to look back and to see the patterns and what we do and how we can really move forward and away from that, and how we can improve that. But any thoughts on the matter, Michelle? I know that we've talked about self-help books in the past, and I know that you and I share kind of like the same similarity in ideas of books that are pretty much like the same thing back in the 90s. But I know that lately there's more psychologists and there's different approaches to things. But in this one in particular, like, what's your take on the upper limit problem that he goes on to mention?
I try to think about myself and reasons why I don't want to do stuff, and see if it's part of the upper limit problem. And I'm not sure if mine was an upper limit problem or just the willingness not to do certain things. Because, Christian, you're a fantastic manager. I had your job on land, and every time people are like, Michelle, you should be a manager. You should be a manager. And I'm just like, there are certain things that you have to do on board as an adventure manager that I don't want to do. And because I don't like the fact that you guys didn't get to choose your staff. That is so hard for me. Like, when I worked on land, I was able to hire and fire my own staff, and you guys have to work with what you have. You have to grow your talent like nobody's business. If they keep making mistakes and keep making mistakes, like, you basically have to over and over and over again, counsel and make sure that they're getting it right. And it could be 6-7 months of you telling the same person to do the same thing over again. No matter how many POLs or written warnings, they might do the same thing over and over again, because you have to grow that talent. That's not something I'm willing to do. And I don't know if that's an upper limit problem for me, or just that would irritate me so much, because I know that at home, if that person wasn't performing, like, not something little, it's something big, and they weren't doing their job correctly, I know that I could get rid of them, within 30, 60, 90 days if, you've gone through the proper channels and the proper counseling. And it's hard to do that on a ship, So there's a lot of things that you guys as managers have to deal with. And a lot of times I didn't mind doing it. There are certain things, like, I'm just like, I can be bad cop. Don't worry. I'll tell the parents this. So you can go tell them, oh yeah, don't worry, you've done this. Cause I'm just like, I was at that point in customer service jobs between working at Disney and working at Royal Caribbean. I'm just like, oh yeah, I don't mind. I can give the parents bad news, and you can come in and be like, oh, but guess what? You know what? They can go to the 6, 7, 8-year room. I'm the manager. I can make that decision. Oh, you know what? We can do this. We're going to give you complimentary pets at sea for the issue that you had. Don't worry. I'm like, you know what? I do not mind making my managers look great. I will be the bearer of bad news so they can come out and be the good cop. Like, I don't mind. But, like, there are certain things that you guys have to deal with that I just was like, I'm over this. I've done it. I've been there. I've done it, and I don't want to deal with it. And I don't know if that was an upper limit problem or me just not willing to change.
But how about when you transition to land? Just like, guide me through how your transition to land was. You leave ships, and then did you fear, like, was there like a fear that you might not find the same level of fulfillment that you had on board, or the same level of fulfillment in your life, in your social life, and in your professional life because on board you were doing so many different jobs at once. You were doing, and you mentioned it, you were doing customer service, you were doing childcare, you were doing, earlier before we started recording, we were talking about personal protection equipment and sanitizing. Like we knew USPH, health codes and things like this. So it was really, the job that you were doing on board really entailed and encompassed a lot of areas and different angles. But did you fear, like coming to land, that you were going to have to just focus on maybe just one and not feeling yourself as fulfilled as you did on board?
No, only because every job that I've had since I left, I have way less responsibility, which is weird for me. Like, when, prime example, we had a fire drill in Korea when I was teaching. I was the only person that found all my kids, lined them up, and counted them to make sure they were all there. Because
But this is
I come
exactly
from,
what I'm saying, because you knew, right?
I
You come from that background, you knew the
yeah,
safety
I come
behind
from
it.
that background. After I got all my kids lined up and I counted them, everyone else was like, oh, maybe I should count my kids to make sure they're all here. But like, I was like, where I like looked, I knew what period it was, I knew which kids I should have. I like lined them all up. I was making sure none of them were with any of the other classes. I counted them, and I'm like, my boss came by and I was like, yeah, I have all my kids. But like, it was, we never had any fire drills, nothing ever like that happened. The whole building, the fire alarm went off. And I was just like, okay, guys, let's go. Make sure you have everything. Leave your backpacks. Just take your jacket because it's cold outside, and follow me, and let's go. But most of my other jobs since then, like I worked in Korea, I worked on a riverboat, less responsibility. I will say, like, even when I was on the riverboat, there were certain things I'm just like, I don't understand how this can happen. I'm like, how come the fire doors aren't numbered? Like, how do I know like which fire zone is which fire zone? How come the staircases aren't numbered? Like,
Right.
one of my emergency duties, I used to be on the bridge. So like, I'm like looking at certain things in an emergency, and I'm like, well, how come that's not here? How come that's not there? Like, are there fire doors? Like,
And exactly. And it's
do you
because
guys
on
have a
board
safety
we have
paper?
as a form as a crew member, when you're on board, you're dealing with all different, and you're growing in so many different aspects that really you become kind of like a superhuman, because you come to land and you know about safety, you know about procedures, you know about customer service. Everybody right now, I was looking at, we saw a video from, I think it was Costa, I can't remember the ship, or Princess, and they're doing new build, and the customer service, when you know that when you enter most cruise ships right now and in the last decade, all the new builds and all the new ships that were building the guest services at the entrance on deck number 4 or 5, which is the embarkation deck. Wilhelmina, you come on the bridge with all your luggage, and just like a reception when you go to a hotel, the first thing that you see is guest services. But this one, you come on board on deck number 4, deck number 5, whatever it is, the promenade deck and the embarkation deck. And there's nothing but bars and lounges and everything for people to come on board and start enjoying their vacation, their time on board. And if you want to find customer service or great relations, you have to take an elevator and go up to deck number 6 or 7. And not that it's hidden, but it's put away so that it's not the first thing that you do when you come on board. Now I have,
That's a good
maybe
idea.
it's because I know, but to me, I don't know if if it sends a message that they're hiding, but it's also, I mean, it's the paradigms that we deal in and that we live with, right? Because we're so drilled, it's drilled in our mind the way that things are meant to be happening, and just like the upper limit, right? It's no, this is the way that it's meant to be done. And this is the paradigmatic mindset of how things are done, the way that things should be, or the way that things have always been done. So I'm pretty sure someone came up with the idea, sitting at some table, and said, "What if we put it on a different deck?" And I'm pretty sure it wasn't welcomed in the beginning, and especially by people that have been doing this for years. But in innovation, it's always what sets the path, right? And what starts making the new things happen. And mentioning this, it's kind of like the upper limit, right? Like it's going back to what we were saying, just mentioning what the upper limit was. It's that cycle, right? And the thermostat that we were mentioning, it's once we exceed this limit, we unconsciously sabotage ourselves to fall back within our self-imposed limits. So it's like a vicious cycle. You hit the upper limit, you self-sabotage, you go back to your comfort zone, and then when things start going well in our minds, we start thinking, I know it's kind of like a tongue twister. You can't really see how you link one thing to the other, but it's pretty much what it's mentioning. it mentions the comfort zone, and I'm pretty sure that we're all familiar with that. We all grew up knowing about the comfort zone and grow out of your comfort zone, and we were constantly being pushed out of it. And what I liked about this book is that it goes on to mention different zones more than the comfort zone that we had always been, because I always thought that it was just the comfort zone and then your full potential. If you move away from your comfort zone, then you get pushed to the other one, which by default was the bigger one, right? But this is Gay Hendricks goes on to mention that there's 4 different zones, and maybe we can discuss this this one's a little bit further. The 4 zones that he mentions is the zone of competence, the zone of competence, the zone of excellence, and then the zone of genius. And ultimately, where we need to go, and this is what I like, this the zone of genius. Just to recap really quick, the zone of incompetency was the things that other people can do better than us, and really we shouldn't be wasting our time on this, or maybe it's a comfort zone, or the things that we do, right? The zone of, no, not so much the comfort zone, it's just the zone of incompetence, things that you don't know how to do, or things that other people can do better than we do. Then, which really we shouldn't be doing, right? It's people that are specialized in that role or that field, and then we should allow them to do that. The zone of competence goes on to say that things that other people do as well as we do, but we would be mediocre at the best in this zone, which is the zone of competence. You just think that we do well because it's basic, right? It's standard. But then the zone of excellence, that's where most of us are, and I can assure you that at least the 3 of us in this room, and the people that are listening to this, at very least, if we have this hunger to be going into this path, the zone of excellence, that's where we're currently at, and where we're constantly at. It's the zone where we excel at, where we're adding a lot of value to others, but we're really not feeding our inner selves. Like we're really good at what we do, and we're fantastic at our jobs, and we submit everything on time, and we're excelling at everything that we do. But really deep down, like, we know that there's a little extra that we could be doing. And I constantly feel that. I constantly know, and I've had great leaders and great bosses and great people always pushing me to my upper limit. I mean, and not my upper limit, through has my upper limit, but really to the next level, saying, no, Christian, I'm going to push it to the next level, and we need to do that. They can see, sometimes, I don't know if it's with everybody, but I feel like other people can see my potential better than I can. And I don't know if it happens with every personality, but sometimes they'll tell me stuff that I do. It's like, oh, really? Was that me? Like you saying, Michelle, was like, oh, you did a great job as a manager. And to me, like, I take it as a compliment, but when you see it and when you start hearing it more and more, you're like, okay, maybe I am. You start believing it a little bit more. But it does work, and it does help, right? But we don't really want to get stuck in that comfort zone, because it does become the comfort zone, our zone of excellence, for the people that are hard workers, for us that are former crew members. Just the fact that we lasted 3 months on board, just the fact that we did it after our first contract, we did it, right? Like we're the zone of excellence because we knew how to do so many different roles at the same time. But how do we get past that? And how do we
do so much stuff, Christian, that you don't realize you're doing? It is very good for the whole, not just for yourself. And a lot of managers on board do what's best for them and will throw their crew members under the bus, when you are always about making it a team effort, reminding everybody that we're a team. And we're there to lift each other up, even when it comes to
that's a good one.
People.
Team.
You were very good at never being mean or angry or disrespectful or telling somebody that they didn't know their job. Like, if you're going to counsel somebody, you're like, okay, this is what you did. Well, this is how we're going to make it better next time. I have to give you this POL. I have to give you this written warning. These are the rules. This is what I have to do. But this is how we're going to move forward and make it work. And this is how we're going to make you better. There are so many times that, like, other managers, because in the kids club, there's always outside forces that are trying to get our time and your time to get us to do other things, to take our focus off of the kids club. And you all were always reminding those higher managers, our focus is the kids club and the activities that we run on. That needs to be our focus, and we will help you with everything else when we can. But we also have 2,000 children on board, and we might need your assistance. And you were very good. Like, not all the managers were like that. Not every manager is going to step into a room when we're over ratio and help out. And that's the thing. Like, there are so many things that I don't think you realize that you just automatically did that other managers didn't necessarily do. And like, you could have a bad day, but you were never showing us that it was a bad day. Like, quantum was crazy. You know, that was a crazy like takeout.
Mm.
And it was a
And
lot going on and a lot put on you, but you never came into a meeting with
thank you,
us
Michelle.
and said, "Oh my gosh, guys, you guys are doing a terrible job." It was like, "Okay, we have things we need to improve on, and this is how we're going to try to help everybody." And that's what made you an excellent manager, because you literally, there's so many little things that you did that really help everybody and not just yourself. And you bring that
Thank you,
into
Michelle.
everything. You don't just bring that into, like, I can tell that you bring this into this. Like, I can tell how much
Mm.
you care about this and how much you're really enjoying this and that you're
Thank you,
literally
Michelle.
here for everybody. But that's what makes you a great manager. So I'm sorry that you didn't see it,
Thank
but
you.
literally, this is
Uh,
why everybody really appreciated you as a manager, in my
Thank you,
opinion.
appreciate it. It's still really hard for me to take a compliment, but I'll take it. Thank you so much, Michelle. And likewise for you, right? And for everybody. I'm saying it for you, and I'm saying it for everybody that listens and that anyone that was on board. We were doing so much all the time, and we truly became superheroes. And that's where my passion is right now. When I was on board, and the things that you're mentioning, I remember. Sorry to put the spotlight a little bit on me, but I'm going to mention it just as an example so that everybody can see what I'm saying about this. And I'm going to mention Barbara on this as well. I had a captain that I took care of his kid while during an emergency when we were building a ship in France. And he left his toddler with me, and I took care of the toddler. And imagine the responsibility during a new build and wearing a hard hat and everything for about 3 days while him and his wife were in a hospital and went to Paris because that was the closest place where they could go. So I took care of the kid, and then he comes back, and I'm still running the operation at the same time as not me, but of course the team was helping me take care of the kid and the baby and all that. But under my, I mean, at the end of the day, you're the face of the team, right? And when he comes back, he tells me, you know what? I think you would be at the end of my contract. He told me, it's like, I want you to grow. I want you to continue growing through the ranks, and I want you to become. I would love for you to be my hotel director or my HR manager. And I said, absolutely not. I was like, I don't think I have it on me. And he said, you know what? I think you would be a great HR manager. I was like, I don't know. I don't think it's in me. And he said, maybe you'll grow into it, but I know at this point you would be fantastic at it, but it wouldn't be good for you. Like, it's gonna kill you because you're gonna carry everything. You're gonna carry all the weight on yourself. And I think this was about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and lo and behold, without even knowing, that's the title that I'm holding right now with Barbara, right? And Barbara walks into my life, and I knew her from about 15 years ago, and then we're working together, and slowly Wilhelmina and I started working together about 4 years ago. And I wasn't even HR back then. I was just recruiting people, but slowly I started growing into this role that this captain once spoke to me about. And but and I wish that maybe we all have it, Michelle, and thank you for mentioning that. Thank you for your compliments. But maybe, and I hope that's the way that it happens for everybody. That's the way that our story unfolds for every one of us, because passing from that zone of excellence and then breaking that glass ceiling into the zone of genius, that's what we really need to do according to this book, right? And that's what we really want to accomplish with this webinar and this book. That's our main goal. And the zone of genius is nothing more than the things that we're uniquely suited to do, the things that fit our strengths, the things that fit our talents and our passions, and that give us the ultimate success and fulfillment, that we feel fulfilled in our finances, in our health, in our love life, in our work. And it's really hard to get there, right? But hopefully we can manage now. At least now that we know that exists, at least for myself, knowing that zone exists, that's the zone where I want to remain. Because every time that happens, let's talk about relationships. Let's put work aside. Let's talk about, you start getting so, like, everything's going out so well, and sometimes I have that inside of my head all the time. Everything's going so well with my friends and with my family and with my spouse and with everyone, and there's a little thought inside my head that's saying, oh, get ready, it's super sunny, but get ready, because it's gonna start raining soon. It always happens. And it's this little cricket, right? Or this little seed that sabotages, and nobody's planting it other than myself. It's other than me jumping on that train of thought, going down that vicious cycle of sabotaging and not being able to feel fully accomplished when we're hitting that zone of genius. So hopefully we can hit that. And same thing for you, Michelle, and for everybody that we're living ships. Now, so that you're saying that you told us before we started recording that you have a part-time job that you found at home. And yes, it may not be as fulfilling because you're doing so many things and you feel less responsibility as you're mentioning. But the one thing that you're doing, I'm pretty sure that you're doing it fantastically, because I mean, you were also running a 3-ring circus on board and on land, right?
We all were, yeah. You don't realize
so I guess,
how people view you until like they say something, because I remember going, I think it was on Anthem, and I came on board and the manager that was there was like, "Ah, oh, thank goodness you're here." And then like an assistant manager was like, "Ah, oh, I'm so happy you're here. I know that you can run the teen center and I don't need to hover over you."
exactly. No. You knew your business. You ran the whole thing, and that's. But then again, it was your zone of excellence, and you knew that that was your zone of excellence. And the
I
moment
don't
that you
think
could
I
do it, and
realized it. I thought I was just doing my job. And I was just like, oh, yeah, I know how to do my job. But I guess I didn't realize
yeah,
that I was good at it. I just thought I was doing my job. And when both of them
exactly.
were just like, oh, thank
But
goodness.
that
I was
happens.
like,
That happens to all overachievers. That happens to all of us overachievers. That we think that everybody's going to do this. No. Trust me, we're irreplaceable. We're really hard to. We're missable. People will miss us at our jobs if we leave. So I guess right now, what I really want to see is how we can, like, if we can reflect on the unique skills that we honed at sea, like the multicultural communication, the adaptability, like the things that are very particular to sea, to living on a ship, and how we translated those into the zone of genius ashore, right? Like everything that we did on board that was so unique, and how we translated it to what we're doing on board. And maybe that's the zone of genius that we could really focus on right now. Because like you said, I mean, you were running the teen center, and that was, and the new ships that was on the back of the ship was completely in a different time zone from when the kids club used to be, right? And whether it's a physical occasion or it's a different job that you're running, but when you're doing it with your eyes closed, you know that you're just doing it automatically, right? Or when you're driving and you don't even know how you got from one place to the other because you were thinking about something else, because you were driving automatically. And you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I made it this far without realizing that you were driving. And I'm pretty sure it's happened to all of us. Um, the same thing happens when we're working. And I think that's when you realize that you're just doing stuff and everything is flowing, you've hit that zone of excellence, because you know that you're just doing it fantastically, but it's just like you're natural. You feel like it just comes natural to you. But I know that we could, Gay Hendricks goes on to saying that we can push through that so that we can constantly live in our zone of genius.
I think the one thing about this that I wasn't quite sure about, he talked about a reunion, and how the different people, like the professors and the private sector people, they're like, well, they're not fulfilled because they're not in their zone of genius. They're not doing exactly what they love, and they're making excuses for why they didn't do this. And sometimes those barriers are hard. It's hard to decide. And that's like one of the things I was trying to think to myself, do I not do certain things because I'm scared? Am I scared to take the big leap? Or are the factors actually that? Are they really barriers, or are they mental barriers? And I think that's one of the things that I was trying to figure out while reading this. Like, are they real or are they not?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
certain situations, you can understand why that can be hard to figure out. And like the Einstein time, I'm sorry, I can't make my own time. I can't
He
be late
compared,
to
it was the
certain
Einstein time
things.
and the what was the other time? It was the two times. One was the Einstein time
Newtonian time.
and
Yeah.
Newtonian time. I
Um,
struggled a bit grasping the idea, but
yeah, I'm like, if I'm still late, I'm making my own time, but if I'm still late, I'm still late.
that doesn't apply for time clocks.
Exactly. I'm like, I get what you're saying, but I'm not sure if
and like you're saying, and they're saying some of them are in our mind and some of them are real, but at least the ones that are in our mindset, like how we can do that mindset shift for at least for former crew members, recognizing the fears of transitioning to actively pushing through them, right? And I think the first step, I think it's understanding the fears, right? First of all, at least acknowledging that it's there. You have to be aware of them so that they can start at least so that it can start losing power over you. Because if you don't address it, if you ignore it, or if you are oblivious to it, or if you're just not paying attention to it, or saying no, it doesn't exist, like if you don't address it, we're never going to tackle it, right? So I guess he goes on to say the first step, it's really understanding that it's there, so that it can start losing power over us. Then the second one is spotting the upper limit. It's noticing when you're limiting yourself. And at least at this point right now, and now that I've had this tool and it's had shed some light into that area and into this dynamic of the upper limit, at least when I hit it now, I know it has a name. And we can't really change something unless we see it. So now we know that it's there. And then unless it has a name, so now it has a name. And then the third step is discovering the zone of genius. And he goes on mentioning 4 main questions for the zone of genius. And I wrote this ones down. I'm going to read them out so that we can remember. One was, what do I most love to do? The second one is, what work doesn't seem like work to me? And then the third one is, in my work, what brings the most abundance and satisfaction for the least amount of time spent? And the last one is, what is my unique ability? And having answered those 4 questions, it's how you get to your zone of genius. Is using strategies so that we can avoid slipping back into the other zones. And doing this 4 questions is really getting to that zone of really the essence and the core of what your unique talents are, right? And I remember someone saying lately and mentioning, I think it was Sebastian, Barbara's husband, that said, you don't have to be focusing on a work-life balance. And that really like it was mind-opening to me, because if you're really, it's that work-life balance and you're making that separation between work and life. And already in your mind, you're thinking, okay, so work is work, but my life is life, right? So I'm going to enjoy my life, but then I have to work so that I can enjoy my life. But what if it's all your life, right? What if it's work is part of your life and you do something that you love, right? And if I was able to do something for free and not getting paid for it, this is what I would be doing, right? Don't tell Barbara, but this is what I would be doing.
I got it
I
out.
would be. Please edit that out of the video. But this is exactly what I would be doing, right? And that's what we should be asking ourselves: like, what job would I be able to do if I wasn't being paid for it? What if it was just getting my my daily bread, or getting my basic needs met? Or that it didn't feel like you're having to go to work and another day at work and another 9 to 5 and having to live the same day after day after day, Monday through Friday, and then year after year, and then calling it a life, right? So I guess it's getting to that point of not separating life and work, but really finding that spot of what you most love to do and how you can hone it down so that it doesn't seem like work for us, so that it means like it just comes in abundance and satisfaction. From doing it, even if it's in little amounts of time or big amounts of time, using the unique abilities that we have. So I guess that's something, and that's very particular to everybody. Mine are different from Wilhelmina's, from you, Michelle, from everybody listening in. We all have different abilities, and that one, that's what separates us. In that one, I think that's what really separates us from everybody that is in the first zone. Remember what the first zone that we mentioned, the zone of incompetence and the zone of competence. It's things that other people, because what might be your zone of genius, yours, Wilhelmina, or yours, Michelle, it's going to be my zone of incompetence because I'm not going to be fantastic at what you are. Like Wilhelmina's fantastic with technology and organizing and doing like something super quick. And I look at things like that, I was like, oh, it takes me forever. And my mind just goes like, and Wilhelmina will do it within seconds. And maybe that's her zone of genius, but mine is my zone of incompetence. And it's not that I don't enjoy doing it. It's just that I know that she's fantastic at it, and she does it. And I don't know if she loves it, but she's always smiling, so I hope she loves it. And that's very interesting to see that someone's zone of genius is going to be someone else's zone of incompetence. So I guess we can all find that zone of genius that Guy Hendricks goes on to mention, especially now that we've transitioned to that. How about you, Michelle? How do you feel in your current role, and do you feel like you're currently living in your zone of genius?
Not yet. I'm still learning, I'm still training, but I'll get there. We'll see. It's it's
Then
it's different from what I've been doing, but I need the same skills that I've kind of learned over the years for like customer service. So yeah, I think it will be
and
okay.
and my hat goes off for being honest, right? At the end of the day, this is going on social media and social, I mean, in YouTube, but we know what YouTube is, and we're smiling, then you put the happy face and you put all that, but we all know, right? And deep down, like, I'm not there. I'm there at times. Sometimes I love it. My work, my job, I do love. I do love what I do, but I don't feel like I'm in my zone of genius every single day. There's tasks that I do that I enjoy. There's some that I don't. But I mean, it's not only work. It's also relationships. It's also financially. Financially, I know that I'm not where I want to be. And maybe it's just. I mean, it's everyone. We all want more. And I struggle with my own upper limit. It's feeling like I'm greedy. Like if I go almost like, oh no, why would you want more? Like you have your needs met, you don't need more. But it's not needing. It's I don't know. That's where my mentality is, and I really struggle talking about finances, and Barbara can vouch to this. But it's something that deep down I know that I want, and I want to acquire and accomplish. But every time I'm about to hit it, I self-sabotage by maybe not attacking it, or maybe not mentioning it. But deep down I know that it's a desire in my heart that I still don't feel comfortable approaching in a certain way, with
I
our
have a
health,
question
with
about
our
that though.
family. Yeah.
Do you think it's because working on ships, we had our needs, our basic needs met? Because I do find a lot of times I'm just like, well, I don't, when I do wants and needs, I'm very like, I don't need that. And I think that came from being on ships. Like, I'm very good at like, I want this, I need that because we had all of our basic needs met. We didn't have to do a lot of, depends. A lot of people sent money home, but their needs on board were met. And so a lot of people just didn't need extra stuff. They're like, well, I don't need this. I don't want that. It's okay. Like, and I think a prime example, like when I was in Korea, when I showed everybody my apartment, everybody I worked on ships with was like, oh my gosh, all of that is for you. Like that whole apartment is for you. Most of us are so used to living with people, living in a cabin, sharing. When I showed them my apartment, oh, that's all for you. Everybody from back home was like, oh, that's a cute little one person apartment. Like the mindset is different. Like when we're on ships, sometimes, like we have those basic needs met. We only need so much. And if we have more than what other people are getting, like maybe some of us feel uncomfortable about that. And sometimes I
I
wonder about that, if that's because we're coming from ships and we're just like, we're in this confined space. We can only put so much in that confined space. And even though when you go home and you live in a bigger room and a bigger house, you're still kind of like, well, I don't need all of that.
to keep it within, to answer the question, to keep it within the under the same light of the author in the book, he says that the upper limit, it's drilled in our mind during our early childhood years. But what you're saying is, what if it happened during ships? But also remember, when you're on ships, I think within, I think the first week you're like, oh my goodness, who are these people? They've been drinking seawater for way too long. Like I used to look at them like they were crazy. But then after my second year, I was like, oh, either they become normal or I became crazy. But I'm starting to think like them, right? But the more I look at them now, we all shared so many. We were all kind of like the same deep down. So maybe, I mean, not everybody becomes a crew member, right? Like we had to have something, some little bit of craziness so that we could do it.
To do it as
So I
long as
guess,
we did, yes, absolutely.
right. So yeah, to make a career out of it at least, right? So the ones that we did, I think that it came from childhood, right? Like or else you wouldn't have hopped on a ship for so long. You wouldn't have survived with so, we didn't need stuff, right? We weren't like hoarding stuff, or collecting stuff, or it was like you said, it was just the basic needs, and not everybody was willing to do it or put themselves through that, and we did. So I think that it does come from early childhood, but there on the ship, it was like a microcosmos where we were all put together in the social experiment in a iron box floating in the middle of the ocean. But I think that we were all sharing that in common. We all had that uniqueness to us, that we shared the crew member mentality, and that's really unique to a crew member. So to answer the question, I think it does make sense that it came from ships, but I think the ships just enhanced it a bit more because we ran into more people like us. But I think it comes way, personally, I think that it comes from way before then. Just to close, and as a closing thought, the transitioning skills and the planning the leap, I think that should be our closing thought. It's highlighting the transferable skills from sea-based roles to land-based industries. And it's mainly creating the action plan, right? We have to develop a simple and actionable plan for transitioning and incorporating the principles from the book. I also saw a video yesterday on TikTok that said, oh, sorry, I forgot to say. Every time I say that I saw, no, I said it wrong. Every time I say that I read it in the Washington Post, it was really a 15-year-old in TikTok said. But I saw a video yesterday that went on saying that the principles that we develop, or that I forgot what it was, but it was goes on to saying that the skills that we were doing on board and the industry that we were working on. I completely lost it. But if it comes back, I'll let you guys know for sure. But it's just transferring those skills that we had on board and transferring them to land, right? And doing exactly what we do. So the quote that we have that I really want to close with, it's the living in the zone of genius. It's meaning that we're doing exactly what we love to do, doing it well, and making a difference in the world. And it's going to be different from everybody. Wilhelmina's is going to be different from your, Michelle, from mine, and from everybody listening in, and from Barbara's. And we all have that different skill that it's going to be so uniquely to what we do. And it's just preparing for it. I remember what it was. It went the video that I was mentioning. It said that we have to have a plan, right? And if we don't plan, everything that we plan is about 90 to 95%. It happens, right? Whether it's if you go to the supermarket and you're just winging it, you're going to forget stuff. Oh, I forgot the milk. Oh, I forgot the eggs. Oh, I forgot the butter, whatever it is. But if you write it down, 90% of the stuff you're going to bring home, just to keep it as simple as a shopping list. Now imagine with our lives, right? You plan it down. Okay, so this year I want to do this. This year I want to do this. I want to take a hike, keeping it simple. I'm not talking big stuff. 5 years, oh, I want to do this, and I want to have, going back to the previous book that we read in January, I want to become a healthier person. I want to become a person that reads. I want to do this and that. But you have a plan, and you write it down, and you see it. If you write it down and if you have a plan, chances are it's going to happen. But if you don't have a plan, it's already happened. You're already there. Nothing's happening because you don't have a plan. And that's what the video was. And sorry that I blacked out for a second. But it's exactly what it was. And it was funny in a way, but it's so true. If you don't have a plan, don't worry. You're already there. That's what was so funny about it. But it's true. I mean, we have to have a plan. And this plan that we have to have, it's how we transition from ship to shore, right? And that's the name of our company, Ship to Shore. And that plan that we have, at least from writing down what the plan is, and even if it's not something that is happening right now, exactly what we wish to happen. There's a few people that have already found employment through Ship to Shore, and we're really happy for them. And we're going to continue to grow in this industry and continue to provide jobs to more people as they transition to land. But it's writing that plan to seeing what we want, and hopefully we can all take away from this webinar so that we can transition from our zone of comfort, jumping through those 3 zones and making it to our zone of genius, where we can really outshine, not against anybody else, but really just our biggest gift that we have, and that uniqueness that we each have to ourselves. Those are the closing thoughts that I want to finish with. Wilhelmina, Michelle, anything that you wish to add at the end?
No, but thank you very much. This was a good chat.
Good chat. Yeah. Sorry that I blacked out for a second, but my mind just went on to TikTok thinking what the video was, and it was. But I'm glad that it came back to me before we closed it, because I was gonna remember later on during the day. It's like, oh, I forgot. But it was that having that plan, and then seeing it, and maybe honing down everything that we're reading and the books that we're selecting for the dynamics that we're doing on the monthly readings that we're doing. We're trying to find material that is linked one to the other. So now we have the habits. Now we have the upper limit that we did Atomic Habits. Now we have the upper limit, the one that we did with a Big Leap. We're going to continue working on resources so that we can communicate in the next future coming days. Wilhelmina and Barbara are going to send out an email with the next book and resources so that you can reach out for the one that we're going to read in March. I know that we still have a couple of days left in February, 2 more days, but March is going to be another good read. It's going to be a little bit of a longer month, but definitely, hopefully, we'll continue down this path so that we can continue growing together, building Atomic Habits, doing the Big Leap, and let's see what the third one will be of the year. Okay, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being a faithful regular one. To everyone else that's going to join us and see us on the channel. Wilhelmina, thank you for all your help as always, running everything and all your magic on the back. Thank you so much. I'll see you around. Thanks, everybody.